This is 2019 shell structures question. So in this case, it's a parabola that's moving along. If you read the question, this is actually an inverted parabola or an upside down parabola. And we're asked to draw this view, and then figure out this view here in plan. Okay, so usually, it depends on which way it is, but usually we start with constructing this first. And we're asked to draw an end view as well of the generating parabola. We'll draw the plan of the structures. And we're not going to cover part C in this video, okay? So we're only asked to draw the end view of the generating parabola as opposed to actual end view. So the first thing is, because of the way I laid out this page, this is very, very tight. It'll just about fit, but it is very, very close. So the height of the question is 5 and 3. And we may as well draw in this line PQ even though we don't know what it is, or leave space for it anyway. So even if you weren't sure how to do D, and which we're not going to cover this video, always make sure you have space for it and always just draw it in anyway. So at least it'll be marked for that, even if you never got around to finishing it in the exam. So this is 5 and 3, which is 8, and 3 is 11. So it'll come down maybe about 12. To start, I'll draw a ground line. And I'm only going to come in 5 mil from here. As I said, it's very, very tight. So we'll come 5 mil. Alright, and we draw a line up. It's 8 millimeters back. Okay, and we need a 5 mark as well. Okay, and then we have 8 and 6 and 2, which is 16. Okay, and we bring this line across by where we'll come back to that in a second. Okay, and we'd mark the 8 for the minute. I'll leave the 6 and the 2 for the second, but you'll see why that's useful in a second. We may as well bring it down. Okay, so let's see. I now need 10 meters here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this line first, and that means I know how far across I can come. So that's actually not too bad. I thought it was going to be tighter for space than it was. Okay, so I have my 10 meter wide box. It's 8 meters high. So I'm going to put my parabola in here. So to put a parabola in, we split it into half first, which is this line here, sort of the center line that they show. And we're going to mark our points A, B, and C. So write them right back to A, B, and C. Okay, so we need to split the outside of these into 5. This is 8 meters. Now, you might decide to do the division line method here. Obviously, in this case, it's going to be difficult to do, just to cover yourself in case on an exam they'd expect you to do that. But normally I wouldn't, because 80 divides equally by 5, so it's 16 millimeters. So we've 16, 32, 48, and 64. Okay. And what I'll do is I'll mark them other ones at the other side. So I'm just making a slightly bigger mark, just so that it can be seen for the video. So on these sides here, they will join up to the vertex. Or in this case, it's point B, so the vertex is the turning point. Okay, and the same on the opposite side. We then have to split the width, which is 10, or sorry, it's 5 because it's half, or 50 millimeters. This width here into 5, so that's easy. So it's 10, 20, 30, 40, and the same on the other side. So we now have our end view completed. Well, not completed, sorry. The points for the parabola, we'll have to draw it in. So let's see, they used purple. So if we number these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So there's our various points. And I'm going to draw it in as a solid parabola. They'll sort of draw it as a hidden looking one. And the reason for that is just because this isn't technically the hidden or the end view, right? This is just called the generating parabola. And we'll see that in a later question. But for the minute, we'll draw it in like so. The other reason we're drawing it in solid is because I'm going to need to take widths here to figure out, or heights here to figure out widths. So you'll see what that's meant by it in a second. So if we read the question, it says the curve surface is produced by translating the generating parabola ABC in a vertical position along the parabolic curve DEF. So translating the generating parabola means moving the generating parabola in a vertical position. We'll come back to that in a second. But what we know here is basically curve DEF is also a parabola. So basically from D, E and F in the elevation. Okay, so that would be typical of these type of questions. So again, 30, we need to divide that by 5. Go back to get my orange. So that's 6. So I have 6, 12, 18 and 24. Same on the other side. And then we have a length of 80 millimeters. So that's 16. So 16. So 80 divided by 5 is 16. 32, 48, and 64. So 16, 32, 48, and 64. So these ones, now again, if you remember, ones will go to the vertex. So this parabola is shallower and it's also upside down. So always remember where the vertex is, that's E. So these will go this way. Okay. Now there's one small little, well, I wouldn't call it a mistake, but just something to be aware of in terms of where I put my points for the split here. So I'll have to draw these this way, the full length of the rectangle this time, because if I was to number them, ideally they'd be numbered as 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm only going to number one side, the same as I did on the other side. Okay, because it's where 1 and 1 cross, 2 and 2 cross, 3 and 3 cross, 4 and 4. The reason I'm only numbering one side is just to make it a little bit easier to understand where I'm getting them, and also to make the drawing a little bit neater. There's no harm in you numbering both sides. Okay, so let's sketch this in. Okay, now again, this side here is going to have a little bit cut off. My purple should probably be done light, but I put heavy in this side of it. And I can mark the other bits in a second as to what will heavy in. But I'm happy enough, so I have my parabola there. So I'll now start to see, well, what else could I get in? So that line there could be put in. Okay, and then we have this point here 6 meters out. So I'll just take maybe my pink that I had and bring that up to here. Okay, so that's 6 meters out, so that means that if I'm too heavy, let's go across these. I probably should have used a lighter purple, but anyways, I don't know if you'll see the difference there. A little bit, it might be a little bit differently, but I've heavied up as far as there. And then there's this mark here. Now we have to look at these and just see, well, where exactly to get that mark. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4 gaps here. So basically that means the gap between every one of these must be 4 into 8, so it must be 2 meters apart. So this bit here must be 2 meters. So what I'll do is I'll measure out 2 meters here, and I'll mark a point, and then I'll join that to that. Okay, and that's my front view done. Alright, so we should be happy enough with that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to draw my plan view, or well, maybe not all of my plan view at the minute because it won't be understandable. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my main rectangle for it. So I'm going to bring my 45 degree line down like I've been doing, and pick a slightly darker orange. Okay, so we'll bring these down. Oh, sorry, I don't actually need to bring down that for the minute. I'm just going to bring down this line and this line. So the 2 outer points and my center line. Okay. So that will make this distance here the same as this, whatever I chose it to be. Partly fine to make that 10 mil. I wasn't sure if it would fit. I thought it would be actually closer than this, so I was trying to minimize. Now you might see my gap is getting wider here. I obviously didn't stick on my page perfectly straight. So I'll bring down this. I'll bring down this. I'll bring down the center line. And I'll bring down this point because that's going to be point F. But I'll come back to that in a minute. Okay, so what I have here is basically a rectangle into which to get this view. Okay, so the question is, how do we get this view? So the first thing that we could do is we could, just to make it a little bit easier to understand what's going on, is we could heavy this line here. Okay, that's the full width. And then what's happening is this parabola is being the same parabola, and it's been moved along this. So in this case here, this is the full size of the parabola. But in the case here at point 1, if we want to call it that, this is less. Okay, so this is however height this is. So I'm going to use various different colours to help to try to explain this. I'm going to draw a blue line down here. Okay, so what this means is here we have the full of the parabola, but here we only have this much. But this is still going to be the top. This is still going to be point B. So what I'm going to do is probably best to use my compass to be most accurate. Is I'm going to transfer this height here by putting it down the way. Right? So that blue line there is the same as that blue line there. Okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put maybe a yellow on it. That's too bright. Yellow. Just to try to explain for the first one. So what that means is that this, if it was the whole parabola, it would go through the ground, but the ground has cut it off. So basically this height here, if we mark it H, and call it H1, is the same as this height here. So if I slice through that, if it was a cake or something, or if it was here and I wanted to construct one of these arches, if I slice through that, it would be exactly that shape, but the bottom bit will be cut off. So I know if it's exactly that shape, that then this must be the width. So I don't know, hopefully that comes up. It might be bit difficult to see because it's yellow, but that's width 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line that up, and I'm going to take my compass again. And the rest of them, what I'll do is I'll keep them the same colour, but for this one, just in an effort to try to explain it, I try to use 2 different colours because sometimes you get confused between heights and widths. So that means that that would be the width. So you can sort of see how that curves in. Let's mark them with a blue there as well. So that will be width 1. So what will I do? I'll do the same thing over and over and over again. Now, I'm just actually looking at it. I did it at that point 1, but I probably should have done it at this line here. So we'll continue on anyways. There's no harm in it. To be a little bit more accurate, but I'm just saying they probably would have got away with 4. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll take the next one. So let's see, I'll mark it in red maybe. I'll bring this down here. So this is H2. So what will I do? So hopefully we figured out that what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take the height. And I'm going to transfer it. Okay, so I'll write it. This is H2. And I'm then going to bring that over. And now I found width 2. So that's how I find the plan. If I take this distance here, it has to be directly below itself. Check out that accurate. Look at that. Okay. And there's width 2. So I repeat the same. I'll do width 3. So let's see, what colour haven't I used? I just sort of peachy colour here. So H3. I'll take the height here. Okay. There's H3. Oh, my plan here. And now transfer the width. Okay, so you can see each one is coming slightly in the way. And then I have two more to do. So we'll take a green maybe. H4. So obviously you won't have to change pens all the time, but the use of a colour pen or pencil makes it a lot easier to get it accurate. It also makes it easier for you coming back for revision, and it also makes it easier for the examiner to give you marks straight away because he can see exactly what you did. So I would advise the use of a colour pen or a colour pencil, even the sort of the blue pen with the white top that has the 4 clicks in it, that you can use green, blue, black and orange, if that was all you had. Okay, that's W4, want to call it that. Yeah, what about each for W3, and sort of this purpley, this lighter purple, hopefully it'll come out okay because it's going on top of it. So there's H5. Okay. So as I said, I probably have an extra set of points here that I could have got away with one less. There's very little difference in the height of H4 and H5. Okay, so what you can see there, sorry my T-square wasn't in perfectly tight, is that I have my points to produce my sort of curve there. Okay, technically it's a hyperbola. Then we'll show we can look at an alternative way of doing it. And then basically I have another point, so I need this one H6. And unfortunately, as I said, if I pick the same colour or the same width, if I pick 2 meter gaps, I could have got away with a little bit less. But we'll transfer this. It's probably going to be very similar to H4, probably just a small bit longer. It's just slightly below the green line. Okay, so again, because I have so many of them, it makes it a little bit easier by having colours for both yourself for revision and also for the exam. So there's basically, just check I took the width there. Yeah, okay, so just be careful that you remember, make sure that you remember to take the width at all times, that you don't accidentally forget. Okay, so that's this is W5. Okay, so I'll sketch this so it starts to come back out the way, and if it came back out fully it would continue on like this. They didn't show it, but basically it would have continued on, so you'd sort of get something like a hyperboloid of revolution there in plan. Okay, now what we want to do now is we want to draw this bit here. Now they show just one line, that wouldn't really be sufficient. We have point F here, okay, right, and really in order to get an accurate curve you need at least 2 points here. So we have these 2 lines here that we use, so we'll use them. So I'll just get a different colour than what I've used if I have any left. You can use a slightly different green or a slightly different teal. Hopefully these show up. Now that's going to darken a little bit, hopefully that shows up a little bit different. So this time what I'm doing is I'm coming it down as far as this angled line. I'm not coming down the complete way. Let's see what other colour. I have used red, sort of a browny colour here. Okay, so we'll call this, that's H6, this is H8, this is H7. Okay, so again I'll use my compass and I'll transfer them. But the difference is now we're coming down to the sloped line, because again this time they'll be cut off by the sloped line. So if we take this H7 height, transfer it. From that we can find the width. And that we can transfer it down to here. And then do the same with the brown line H8. And that will be pretty much completed. Or up as far as point C anyway. Or no, point D. As I said, we're not going to complete point D in this case. Okay, so that'll be W8. And we'll sketch in okay, so even at that opacity we could have put in another one just to be a little bit more accurate. But that's the gist of the question. What I'd also do, even though we're not going to do part C, I'd also just join in this line, because there's no harm in putting it in, even if we, to make an attempt at point C, even if you weren't sure how to do it. But we'll come back and cover it later stage, and then 3 meters above here we have the elevation view of that line. Okay, and that's the question done.